Alright, so we're back at it again for another video. This time I'm going to be doing something a little different than my normal video style though. So normally I release a live reaction video with the new One Piece chapters that come out, and then most recently I did kind of like a rundown video on the Elbaf flashback so far, about 5 to 6 chapters, just as a kind of like a brief explanation. So I'm going to do something a little different this time, and I'm going to do more of a One Piece theory video. Or this is almost like kind of giving my opinion on theories, I guess. And I'm going to give a shout out to my brother Jason, who actually came up with the cool idea for this video. So rather than doing what we see all the time in the community of who is Luffy's mom or this character is Luffy's mom, this is a who isn't Luffy's mom video. And we'll start out real simple. I'll actually start with the reason this video is essentially being made is that the most recent Luffy's mom candidate would be Tritoma, who was the predecessor to Boa Hancock as being the Empress of Amazon Lily, the one who succeeded Shaki and then came before Boa Hancock, who actually died of love sickness. Now, the reasoning in the community, I guess just to give a briefest rundown, every time there's a new like woman character introduced in One Piece, there's a new lady introduced. If she is old enough essentially, so probably in her late 30s to 40s at least, to be Luffy's mom, and she's not stated to blatantly not be Luffy's mom and to be somebody else's, then she's pretty much thrown up as, it's got to be Luffy's mom. Because there are lots of people, at least in the community, want us to meet Luffy's mom because we already know his dad. Now, I'm going to give my opinions as to who is not Luffy's mom based on theories I've seen and just things I've seen on like Reddit and in the community. And then I'm going to give my opinion on who it could be, though I don't think it's actually very important. I don't think it's going to be very important at all to figure out who Luffy's biological mother is. I think we have a pretty clear answer, honestly, to who Luffy's mom is very blatantly through storytelling. But to get into the video, we'll just start with Tritoma, like I said. So she's the empress that predated Boa. The main reasons that people seem to believe that Tritoma could be Luffy's mom is, one, again, she meets the age criteria. Two, she's out on the sea in the same time that Dragon would either be a marine or would be a revolutionary early on. They're of similar ages, and she kind of looks like Luffy when she was younger and we first saw her with her smile on her face in the rocks, in this rocks Harald Loki flashback. She looked vaguely like young Luffy, but like with the smile. But that's not and she has black hair. Or dark hair at least. But that's not a good indication because really we've had that for other One Piece female characters who come up, and it's just not that's not a piece of evidence that can make somebody be Luffy's mother. So like if they looked like almost exactly alike, I'd get it, but they're not almost exactly alike either. It's just they look vaguely similar with their smiles and round faces, and they've got black hair, and that's really it. Other than that, we know that she died of love sickness, and that means she probably didn't end up getting with the person that she loved or being able to stay with them, and that's why she died. And we know that so far the Empresses of Amazon Lily fall for pretty, we'll say, relevant big names in the One Piece verse. So Gloriosa seemed to have love sickness for Roger. We would imagine that Shaki had it for Rayleigh, as that's who she got with. Boa has fallen for Luffy, one being originally the Pirate King and Roger, right hand of the Pirate King and Rayleigh. And then we have Luffy, future King of the Pirates, right? So all pretty prominent characters. Dragon himself is a pretty prominent character, being in, I believe, titled the most wanted man in the world, and being the leader of the Revolutionary Army, being the only group actually standing directly really against the world government as a faction. So could she have met Dragon and fallen for Dragon? That actually makes more sense to me, but it doesn't make her Luffy's mom by any stretch. Just like how Gloriosa isn't Ace's mom, even though Gloriosa fell for Roger, you know what I mean? So I don't think Tritoma's Luffy's mom. Next, let's get into the next one, or the next one's going to be one that really bugged me a lot, because this was the one that hit me really hard when it happened, because I knew that people were going to say it about Tritoma too, but Ginny, when Ginny was like first shown in the manga, again, little girl, big smile on her face, like huge smile, and then I believe we saw her eating a lot. And everybody instantly said, that's got to be Luffy's mom. There's no way it's not Luffy's mom. And that's the first thing I thought when I saw it wasn't, oh, that's Luffy's mom. I thought, dude, the community is about to absolutely bug out and say that this is Luffy's mom when there is no way it is. The real reasoning, again, similar look when they were kids, other than that she has a light colored hair and Luffy has dark hair. Dragon has black hair, though, so, right? Balances out. And then because she joined the revolutionaries, and we knew she was a revolutionary for a while, she knew Dragon and was therefore around him. That's really it. I guess age-wise, she lines up where she would, had she not died, she would be old enough. And she was old enough to be Luffy's mom when Luffy would have been born. But we pretty much got a lot of Ginny's life given to us, and we were never told about that. So I'm pretty sure it's like concrete that Ginny's just not. Moving on from there, we'll do one that I think has no credibility that I saw on Reddit, where somebody tried to say that Stussy is Luffy's mom. And their only real reasoning, I guess other than that age could line up, was that their names sound similar. Stussy, Luffy, you could pronounce them wrong. Luffy, Stussy, or Stussy, right? And that was pretty much the only reasoning they had. No chance. Just another example of the community just throwing out people who could be that there's no chance actually is. Another one that I'd say definitely has more credibility than Stussy, but none at all still, is Nico Olvia being Robin's mom. And the only thing, again, I've ever seen for that online, really, in the community is age matches up. We know that the revolutionaries had something to do with the scholars of Ohara and that they worked with them. Therefore, they had met, some of them had met, right? So Dragon and Olvia could have met. They were out on the seas at the same time, and they're of similar age. And again, those things are all true. I can't deny those facts, right? But that doesn't make her Luffy's mom. And there's no other reason to think that she is. I don't think she would have hid that from Robin or from other people. So that, I just don't think so. I just don't see it. My favorite of who isn't Luffy's mom. My favorite option of, again, who is not Luffy's mom, but it's a great candidate. It always makes me laugh when I read the theories. Is the Croco-Mom theory that Crocodile, Sir Crocodile, is Luffy's mother. What gets me and what I still can't get by, no matter how they try to explain it, is why Crocodile would have just tried to kill his own son if he was Luffy's mom multiple times in Alabasta. It just doesn't check out for me. But outside of that, there is I personally believe Crocodile was a woman before he became a man in One Piece, for sure. I'll be honest, I've been on that train for a while. The community's got that kind of concrete down. A lot of people where it's like, if you believe it, there's a lot of evidence to believe it. And if you don't like it, you really don't have to believe it. It's not proven. It's just, there's a lot of evidence that points at it. And we might never actually learn exactly if that's, if that could be the case. We do know that Crocodile has a history with Ivankov, and that Ivankov knows a secret about Crocodile that he wouldn't want to get out. And that Ivankov can turn men into women and women into men. His epithet, Sir, specifically titles him to sound like a man, which could, again, be pointing at him, trying to make sure there's no confusion in that he is a man, whether he was a woman originally or not, being called Sir before becoming a man, because he believed himself to always be a man, even if in a woman's body. The only other, I think, credences there were to the theory, there's a couple more. When we saw a young Crocodile drawn by Oda in an SBS, I'll be honest, I remember how he looks, and he drew all the 7 warlords. Oda has a certain style for drawing typically men and women characters, both at older, middle, and child ages, right? A general way that they're drawn to look similar. And a lot of mangakas do that. That's not irregular at all. But with Oda's style, it's kind of easy to see where he kind of puts them. Excuse me. Crocodile, actually, when he's drawn as a child, does, to me, look more feminine than masculine. It's actually funny because I think he posed Crocodile at that point next to Boa, and if you look at how their facial features and their body structure looks, they're a lot more similar than all the boy ones that we see in Kuma. I think we saw Doflamingo, Moria, Jinbei. Now 2 of those are actually all 3 of them. Dofi's the only one that's a real human boy there. The other 3 are like Fishman and Buccaneer and Onion Demon Person, whatever Moria is. But I will say he did look more feminine in my eyes there. Another big part of it was in a flashback of Rogers. I think it was in I don't remember. I think it was in a movie or it was in a special where they showed Roger his execution again, and we got to see a lot of the big names of the current time back then, like Dofi. We got to see Mihawk. We got to see Shanks, and we ended up cutting to see Crocodile, but turned around, so we only saw the back of their head, and we couldn't see their neck or anything else, even the side of their face. We just saw their what they were wearing, which is very clearly Crocodile's coat and the same colored hair, and it's slicked back. Now, the fact that they did not show his face, but showed everybody else very apparently to let us know who they were, would show that he could be trying to hide something about how Crocodile looked at that point. Which, to me, there's literally no, like, there is no reason, unless it's that he's a woman and he's trying to just keep joking with us about it, to hide it. And then the last big piece, I'd say big piece of evidence, I think it was in the Viva Card books that came out. There was one for Crocodile that essentially said something along the lines of how Ivankov holds something, or gave Crocodile something that he is indebted to Ivankov for, and also doesn't want people to essentially know about. And there's nothing that Ivankov could really give Crocodile that isn't changing their gender. You know what I mean? That's like his whole fruit. So it just kind of lines up where Crocodile could be a woman. And the theory then would continue that after, not only is Crocodile a woman, that because he knows Ivankov, he was in some way related to the new Ivankov, who was a high-ranking revolutionary. Whether it was he sought him out to get the gender change, or whatever it was, or was seeking other revolutionaries in general, but therefore was in communication with Ivankov, who was a revolutionary, which puts him within communication reach of Dragon, which could have let her at that point / Crocodile him meet Dragon. I believe the only theories I've read is that they have something of a one-night fling, essentially, and Crocodile ends up having Luffy. But it doesn't tell us how Luffy would have ever ended up with Garp, and it doesn't explain why Crocodile would have again tried to kill his own child later at Alabasta. So I don't think the Crocomom theory is there. I do think Crocodile was a woman. I'm pretty sure of that. But, yeah, no way he's Luffy's mom. Next. Those are the only ones I really had for who isn't Luffy's mom. Those are the ones that had bugged me or I thought were kind of funny. I am going to give now an idea of who Luffy's mom could be, or I guess the one who birthed Luffy could be. Because, again, like I said at the start of this video, I believe we have a pretty clear-cut answer as to who Luffy's mom is in the story. Who Luffy's real mom would be. Now, I think the possibility is that Luffy was born from a celestial dragon, and I know that theory's been around for a while, that dragon at some point in the Marines went to something like a reverie, or was just at the Marijois for whatever reason, and met a celestial dragon that he ended up falling in love with, and something maybe between them getting together, maybe that was wrong because dragon was something as a Marine and a common folk, and so maybe she was kicked out of Marijois, or punished, or poisoned, or gosh knows what, and she was killed, or just taken and killed after she had the baby. And somehow Dragon or Garp or somebody got a hold of baby Luffy, and that's how he was saved from whatever punishment could have fallen on him from that. Is that possible? Yeah, I think that one's definitely possible, that she could be a celestial dragon and something happened to her, that's why we don't know her, something tragic, and that could also be a big part of why Dragon hates the revolutionaries, or rather, led the revolutionaries and hates the world government. But I don't really think that's exactly going to be the case either. I don't think it's important at all that we know who Luffy's birth mother is. If we get to know it at some point, I guess that's cool. But I think very clearly we've been told through the story and Oda's storytelling who Luffy's mom is. And it's pretty obvious. It's Dodon. Curly-haired Dodon from the Goa Kingdom Windmill Village, the Mountain Thieves. And it's literally, Oda had said, and I believe it was an interview of some kind, somebody had asked him about, asked him to describe Luffy's mom, would she be beautiful, this, that, the third, and Oda essentially said he wasn't sure if she was alive yet. He was thinking she would be alive still, but he's not sure what he wants to do with that, and that she would be an older woman, not beautiful, and would have the style of like a middle-aged woman's like perm kind of hair, or matty hair, like matted hair, and that's literally Dodon is who he described, and we got Dodon in the manga, I believe it was 1 or 2 years later. So, and then Dodon literally raised Luffy as a kid raised him as much as he let her, Luffy seemed to have an interesting backstory that we still didn't see when he was a little baby origin, and how he ended up with Garp, and Garp took him to do all this crazy stuff and threw him into ravines and jungles and all kinds of nonsense before he ended up being taken to the Dawn to take care of. And then Luffy pretty much ran around doing that until Ace showed up not too long later. And then it was Ace and Luffy and Sabo for a while until Sabo got taken out. And then it was Ace and Luffy until they both became old enough to go out on their own. And at that point, I'm sure they were probably still living with the Dawn or around the Dawn or somewhere in that area. And they still saw her. But in terms of who took care of them and bathed them and gave them food when they were children and needed things, it was the Dawn. And that's exactly what Bellemere did for Nami and Nojiko, and what we've seen Dr. Kureha, or I'm trying to think of another good example of a father-style character to a Straw Hat. Tom, these are what they do for the children. They then become their parents. We even had Bellemere directly say, and that was the whole reason she died, that Nami and Nojiko are her daughters. Right, and Nami goes out to say that Bellemere is her mother. We've learned multiple times through the story with like Whitebeard about forming a family that's not by blood. That's a very big theme in One Piece that we go over. Is that family is not always blood. That it's who you choose and who you accept and love. Right, and so that's where I'm pretty sure Oda's kind of already gone with it. We know who Luffy's mom is, and it's Dawn is Luffy's mom. His mother is Dawn. Who birthed Luffy is pretty unimportant. She birthed Luffy, and somehow, again, he ended up in Garp's hands, and then we know pretty much most of his backstory from then on, with the Shanks stuff, and Windmill Village, and all that, right? In the Goa Kingdom, we know all that stuff. So there's a small gap in time we don't know about Luffy. I think it's like 1 to 4, or 5, because I think he's with Dawn at like 5 or 6, right? Very early. So we got that little gap, and knowing who he came from, other than Dragon, would be fine. It could also be that it's Garp's daughter and that Dragon isn't the son of Garp. I don't think we've ever had that directly stated. But it could be that Dragon is not the son of Garp and that it's actually Luffy's mom, who's the daughter of Garp, and something happened to her. Again, that I think is better than it being a random nobody at all, right? Who just birthed Luffy, boom, and then is gone. But it's not that much better either way. It would be a little better, but still wouldn't really do much for us. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. I wanted to keep this video a little shorter, and I managed to go on for about 17 minutes, so I'm going to cut it out here. But I hope this video goes over well. Give a like, write a comment, or subscribe to the channel if you've gotten this far, or if you in general enjoyed the video. It's a very generic YouTuber or content creator thing to say, I know, but let me tell you, it does actually help with the algorithm, and it does let me track the data through YouTube's analytics a lot better. And it's definitely a good indicator for if videos are doing well. So it really helps me strive to do better and to want to get out more when I see more coming back, when I see more feedback. So, like I said, give a like, comment, subscribe. I hope everybody has a good day. I hope everybody had a great, I think it's been about a week since I posted my last video. So I hope everybody's had a good week. I hope everybody has a good week to come. Go out, have some fun, tell somebody you love them, and just have a great night. Later.